Hi guys, I'm going to speak to you today about how we can use astrology to help us in our career. So, when I started learning this, it was actually by mistake. So, back in 2013, I think, maybe 2012, I started learning psychometric profiling and I started to notice that people had very similar charts depending on when they were born in the year. So I went down this rabbit hole and I started looking at, because I was working in recruitment then and I was doing team development stuff and assessment centers and all of that. When I started looking at this more and more with a number of people that I was doing psychometric profiling for, I really started to notice this pattern more and more. And I thought, I'm going down the rabbit hole on this. So, in my research and in my training, I went down this huge rabbit hole looking at the Enneagram spanning back to Egyptian times. And I started to see how the planets had aligned to the Enneagram, and then that had aligned to the thread that runs through to our present day psychometric profiling. And it just fascinated me. I am a geek when it comes to human behavior. And some of you that know me know that I am a trained trauma therapist, hypnotherapist. I've got many, many different skills that align to human behavior. And because my childhood was so traumatic and things that had happened to me had been so wild, I started to think there's got to be more at play here. This cannot just be a coincidence. You know, my life has not been a coincidence. Too much has happened for me to believe that my life could have been a coincidence. And this led me on this whole spiritual journey to be able to explain why these things happen and why that we are the person that we are and why we are put on this planet and what we're here to do. And when I started looking at my birth chart many, many, many years ago, I've been doing astrology for many years now, it started to open a whole new world for me. I just realised that we don't have to guess. There is a blueprint that we can follow that has been mapped out before we even got here to show us exactly where we should be aligning and how we should be aligning ourselves to get the best out of our lives, to leave legacy, and to also make it so that we don't have to hustle. When you're hustling, it's because you're not living in alignment. And one of the biggest shifts that I see with my clients is simply getting them into alignment with who they are, how they communicate, why they're doing what they're doing, who they want to work with, why they want to do that. And as soon as we start speaking about those things online and we start getting it onto their websites and building their funnels around it and everything else, this is when things significantly shift for them. So I'm going to look at two people who we both know and maybe love, maybe don't love, but I tried to pick the two people that everybody would understand and everybody would know so that we can really start seeing the patterns and how their careers have been born from their birth charts. So let me just share my screen. We're going to have a look at Donald Trump and Steve Jobs. So if I just share my screen here, you'll be able to see. So we will start with Steve Jobs. Whenever we look at somebody's career, we need to look at their MC. This is the highest point of your birth chart. So it means it's our legacy. It means it's our career. It's the pinnacle of our public image and how we're going to be seen on the planet. You can see that he has got his MC in Gemini. Gemini is ruled by Mercury. So it is all about communication. It is all about teaching. It is all about that social network and being able to speak to a number of people, maybe building a community, maybe teaching a community, maybe communicating to a community. Gemini is the social butterfly, so they know many things about many things, but they don't necessarily go deep in their knowledge. They're more of a know a lot about a lot, know a little about a lot. So you can see straight away that he has got this public speaking image. As soon as he started public speaking, that's when things really took off for him because he has got Gemini in his birth chart. I also I've got a Gemini Sun. I have got also a Gemini North Node. So I am here to teach, learn, and inspire and communicate. So is it any wonder that both Steve Jobs and I work in technical comms? Absolutely not, no. Something else that is really interesting, which I didn't know until just got his birth chart to do this video. Can you see here he's got Uranus conjunct Jupiter? Uranus rules technology, it rules spark, it rules innovation, it also is a bit of a rebel. When it is conjunct Jupiter, it means expansion. So Jupiter's about luck and expansion. So can you see here why Uranus conjunct Jupiter would mean that he works in technology, which boomed and changed the world. I actually have this placement. I have got Uranus conjunct Jupiter in my first house. So is it any wonder that Steve Jobs and I both work in comms and in tech? No, because we've both got Gemini placements and we've both got Uranus and Jupiter placements. So I was like, no way, Steve Jobs has got that too. We both work in technology, or we did before he passed away. So can you see how this is starting to build a picture? He has really innovated the tech space and he did a lot of public speaking. He obviously did it for the world. You know, he changed the world through technology. And you can see how this is in his birth chart. Something else which I found extremely interesting, you may know this about Steve Jobs or you may not. He's a Pisces sun, so he's very sensitive, very empathic. It's actually trine Neptune. So Neptune rules Pisces. So that's like a double whammy of Pisces. Pisces and Neptune rule the arts, they rule dreams, they rule all of those really beautiful things. Did you know that Steve Jobs, when he was at university, he actually walked past a calligraphy class? And when he looked inside, he thought they're really making some beautiful writing there and some fonts. And he thought, why is it that the computers are all black screens with green text? Everything's the same. Why is it that we can't bring in calligraphy and technology? And that's actually what Apple became known for. They were the first company to actually bring fonts into technology and into computers. And again, if any of you work in design, you will know that Macs still today are really well used in the design industry because it's always had that kind of spin to it. It's very, very good for people in the design industry. So you can see how his love of the arts, his love of beauty, his love of calligraphy was that cross section between his love of technology and his love of beauty. And you'll see again in Apple's branding, it's stunning. It's beautifully executed. It's really simple. You can see how again he has shaped this world of technology with his love of beauty and design. Something else that I see here is that he has got a Virgo ascendant. So your ascendant is where the sun was in the sky when you took your first breath when you were born. And this is how we often show ourselves to the world. When you've got any Virgo placements, they are the perfectionists of the universe. And again, it is ruled by Mercury. So he not only has Gemini MC to do with communication at work, he also has a rising in Virgo. So he is double Mercury ruled in that sense. So again, he will be looking at the nitty gritty. He'll be highly critical. He will be looking at those really, really small details that matter in order to be able to innovate through tech. One thing which isn't to do with his career, when we look at our North Node here, opposite our North Node is always the South Node. So he's got a South Node in Cancer, which meant he would have been very comfortable at home. And actually his path to this life would be to crack work and corporations. That's what is ruled by Capricorn. I think he managed that in his short life. I know he died when he was quite young. But what we do have here is we have the moon square his North Node. Anything that's square your North Node, so your North Node is about your life's path. Anything that we have square your life path usually manifests as though it isn't part of your life. Anything that's square your life path doesn't have anything to do with it. I was just trying to find my phone because the moon actually rules our mother. And I've got a feeling Steve Jobs might have not got on with his mother. Just bear with me and I'll find my phone and we can research it. So if we go on here and just say, did Steve Jobs get on with his mother? Steve Jobs developed a positive and supportive friendship with his biological mother after meeting her in his adult life. Very limited contact. Focused on loyalty with his adoptive parents. Okay, that explains it all. So he was actually adopted and he didn't speak to his mother until much later in life. You often see this. I actually have this in my birth chart. And I haven't spoken to my mum for about 6 years now. Anything that's square your nodes generally doesn't have anything to do with your life path, or it's going to be very, very difficult for it to be part of your life path. And that just proves it. Steve Jobs was actually adopted. So there you go. That's super interesting. So next, I want to have a look at Donald Trump, somebody we all know and some people love, some people don't love. I thought this was super, super interesting. And again, we are going to look at, so we'll look at his MC first. So he's got his MC in Taurus. Taurus rules materialistic life. So it rules money, it rules property, it rules luxury. And you can see how he built his career around property, huge developments of property also. Whenever we see anybody that does anything on a huge scale, we always look to Leo. Leo is the life and soul of the party. They love being center of attention. They will hold a stage. And whether you like Trump or whether you don't like Trump, what we do know is that he can hold a stage. He has got his ascendant in Leo conjunct Mars. So his ascendant, again, is that bluster. He's very comfortable speaking in front of hundreds of thousands of people. He believes that all of the eyes can be on him. That is because of this Mars in Leo and because of his ascendant in Leo. He is his most comfortable when he is in front of people. What is not to do with his career, or partly to do with his career and this downfall of his career, many might say, is again, I want to look at these planets. So he has got Venus conjunct Saturn in Cancer. I, again, don't know anything about his home life when he was a child, but I would say that is extremely difficult. He will have had something extremely difficult to do with his mother. How I also know that again is if that isn't bad enough, it's actually square Chiron. So when something is square, that means it's a very difficult aspect. And Chiron is the wound that we can never heal. So it's our deepest wound. It is also our biggest gift. If we can work through that wound, it becomes our biggest gift and the thing that we become most known for if we allow it, or if we work so that it manifests in its highest expression. I would suggest Donald Trump did not work for this to manifest in its highest expression, because he is obviously known for treating women the way that he has treated women. When we have got, especially in a man's chart, whenever we have got Venus, which is a feminine planet, square Chiron or conjunct Saturn, I would say they aren't very women friendly, which we have seen in Trump's day-to-day life. And we could argue actually that this has been part of his demise. His career, his MC here, would have been a lot more positive if he hadn't have allowed these aspects to have brought him down the way that he did. We always have a choice. We can choose whether we allow these aspects to manifest in the positive expression or in the negative expression. And because Donald Trump, I would suggest, hasn't done a huge amount of work on himself, he has allowed these negative aspects that he has downloaded from his mother to play out again in his life as he has today. I don't know anything about Donald Trump's mother, but I would suggest there's something here around karma. They probably didn't get on too well. Let me just have a look at this. So, did Donald Trump get on with his mother? Let's go on his mother's Wikipedia. So she is Scottish, blah, 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 early life, family, marriage, and activities. So what does this say here? Oh, hysterectomy. The final birth led to an emergency hysterectomy, which Mary Ann barely survived. I would say that pattern is definitely, so Cancer rules the family and rules the mother. The Saturn being there is all about very, very tough lessons. And Chiron, again, the deepest wound. In this case, it was a physical wound where she almost didn't survive having a hysterectomy. What else does it say here? As parents, MacLeod was more reserved than her husband. Friends of the children observed fewer interactions with her than with him. In appearance, she was a slight build, which was known for her elaborate hairstyle blended with her dynamic orange swirl, similar to the hairstyle that Donald would later become known for. She died from complications due to alcoholism. There you go. So he has got Saturn in Cancer. That would have been a very, very tough upbringing For his mother, usually when you see alcoholism, you generally see something to do with the moon is going to be negatively aspected, which it is here. It's on his south node. I would suggest she was quite, when you've got the moon in Sagittarius, the mum is usually not around that much. She might be out and about physically. You know, it said actually here she was a socialite, so she was probably always at parties. And often we see Neptune, heavy Neptune placements. We have heavy Neptune placements when we have something to do with addictions. He actually has Mercury square Neptune. These people are usually, they've usually got the gift of the gab, but they don't necessarily always tell the truth. You never know if they're telling the truth or not, or whether there's usually some kind of illusion around what they say, delusion or illusion or both, which I'm sure we can all probably see in Donald Trump also. So let me just stop sharing. I hope that has been of interest to you, and I hope you can now see how your birth chart, your birth chart really plays out into not only the person that you are, but the life that you're here for, the legacy that you can leave, and the how you can use that to build a picture for you to become the best person that you can be, not only for yourself and your own life, but also in your career. So I hope that's been helpful. If you've got any questions, please do drop them below. And I'd love it if you can like and subscribe. If this has been helpful to you, then subscribe to my channel, and I will be sharing more 10-minute transformation. I'm sure this has probably been longer than 10 minutes. I'll be sharing some more 10-minute transformations with you to help you get your life aligned and your business aligned, because we are not here to hustle. We are not here to get sick. We are not here to fight. We are here to get into alignment. And that is what my self-mastery series does for my clients. We actually look at who you're supposed to be, what you're supposed to be here for, what your legacy is going to be, and then we build your business around that. So I hope that's been helpful. Let me know if you have questions, and I'll see you again soon. Bye.